So at Boston Consulting Group, we are working really on two levels on the topic of maritime decarbonisation. Firstly, we're helping shape the ecosystem through our partnership with the World Economic Forum, with the Mercer McKinney-Muller Centre for Zero Carbon Shipping, and many others, because we're a true believer in actually it is about collaboration that will make this transition as smooth and as quick as possible. And then the second level that we work at is really with both public and private organisations, helping them individually as entities work out how they move through maritime decarbonisation, how they as an organisation actually play a role in this. And that sometimes can take in the form of strategy work, so looking at really, what are the fuel pathways for that particular organisation, or what are the infrastructure needs that they need to consider. But it also goes down as far as into very practically on a day-to-day basis, how do things in the organisation need to change? So those two levels, really shaping the ecosystem and also helping these individual entities work on these topics. For me, really, the future of maritime decarbonisation is really threefold. And I've talked about the first, and that is collaboration across the value chain. That is not just shipping companies working with other shipping companies, it's working with port operators, with fuel operators. And therefore, I think the sooner that we build these collaborations and start getting a common language across the value chain, we'll really succeed. The second element that I think is going to be critical in this transition is around regulation. The maritime industry, it is not about absolute cost, it's about relative cost. What do I mean by that? It doesn't matter how much I'm paying for my fuel, as long as it's cheaper potentially than my competitor. So creating a level playing field through some form of regulation, whether that is a carbon tax or whether that is some form of incentives, is going to be critical. And then the third one is the share of risk and also of economics as well. What do I mean by the sharing of risk? That's really about making sure that if I'm leaning into an offtake agreement, for example, for a fuel, I'm not the only one that's leaning into that risk. I actually work with others to share some of that burden across it. So for me, those are the three key nuggets that we need to crack towards 2030 and towards the goal of decarbonising the industry by 2050. So the maritime industry at the moment is talking a lot about technology, about regulation, about future fuels, but I think there's one key aspect which at the moment isn't talked enough about, and that is about seafarers and the people that are going to be involved in this transition. So really the question of how do we upskill our seafarers? How do we make sure that we maintain a safe environment around new and different fuels that are going to be used in the maritime industry? So really the people element of it. And then there's one other topic that I have a real passion for, and that is the idea of a just transition. And that for me is about re-leveling and rebalancing the economics of the maritime industry, making sure that those developing countries get a piece of this transition and a piece of the money that's going to be created and the economic benefit that's going to come from the green transition. So very much an undiscovered and an under-explored topic. I think we need to talk more about this, and I think we will talk more about this in the future. It's going to be a really interesting situation even in 2030, but I like to talk about the final ambition, and that is a decarbonised maritime industry in 2050. What I see happening in 2050 is very much going back to the heart of this transition, and that is collaboration. And this is competitors working together. This is ports and governments, public, private, all actually collaborating around making sure that the maritime industry can be zero carbon. I think the way that that's going to work is we're going to have multi-fuels. As you go into a port, you're going to be able to fill up with ammonia, methanol, biofuels. We're going to have a lot of complexity in this, but because of the collaboration that's going to happen, we're going to be able to overcome those. And my little pet project is very much about going back to the future, and that is that on the sea in 2050, we're going to see more vessels actually having sails on their boats, actually using natural wind to actually power their vessels around the world. So it's not all new technology. There's some old technology that we can really use and actually use in a smart way to make the transition much smoother and much more efficient. really have two topics around what is my wish for the industry. I think firstly, we need to start moving away from rhetoric, from emotional rhetoric, and we need to start moving into facts and figures. We need to start having a fact-based discussion. And there are some really great organizations around the maritime industry that are bringing those facts to the table, that are making, for example, and helping the IMO make really fact-based decisions on the way regulation can go. So I think moving away from stories, from rhetoric into facts and making decisions on facts. I think the second topic, which I really think needs to happen, and I think will happen in the coming years, is much clearer and concise regulation. Not just regulations, but specifications. We are in the maritime industry at the moment trying to sell premium products, premium shipping solutions. At the moment, we don't have a way of measuring that, a language around what that premium product is. And I think this space around regulations and around how we actually measure these topics is going to be a key unlock for the industry in the next decades to come.